Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I want to start my next build project, and the name of the game is Archmage. In specific, Archmage. So mana stacking, back to my, I wouldn't say roots, but I really like my mana stacking builds. I think they have so much potential. Mind over matter, agnostic, very good layers of defense, and whenever they showed us the announcement or the trailer of the Crucible League and what is possible, and then we got kind of spoiled with all the nodes that are available. There was one, and once I saw the Archmage node or the Arch node for Crucible, I knew exactly like this league I'm gonna do a mana stacker. So what does it do? Arc and Crackling Lance gains added cold damage equal to 12% of mana cost if mana cost is not higher than the maximum you could spend, and 15% increased cost of Arc and Crackling Lance. So increasing the cost is usually a bad thing unless we're playing Archmage. So what Archmage is basically doing, the more mana you spend, so it has like a ridiculous added mana cost of your spells basically. So for example, my Arc currently has 100 mana cost. If I put in Archmage, it suddenly has 2000 mana cost, right? So the more mana we have, the more mana we can spend, the more damage we're getting, right? And this basically plays into the card of this Arc node, and this one basically also increases the cost. So the original goal was to check all the Crucible passives and go for things that are actually benefiting us. For example, there is a node that says increased cost of skills but more cast speed, which usually is a downside, but for Archmage it is an upside, cause more cast speed, more damage, more increased cost of skills, more damage. So the goal was actually to create a passive tree that focuses on increased mana cost of skills, as well as like getting mana, maybe Wrath, Aura effect and stuff like that. But that looked pretty good in PoB, but the problem was more like it is impossible to sustain that kind of like mana cost. So I'm gonna showcase this at the moment without Archmage support. You see my mana is barely ever dropping, but once I put in the Archmage support, so we're now sitting on like 2000 mana cost. Once I start here and cast, then all of a sudden at some point I'm gonna be drained and I cannot even cast anymore. So yeah, technically it is very good in PoB because hey, high mana cost equals high damage, but this is not really the way that you can play that because you just cannot sustain that. Usually you would play this with the Cloak of Defiance, because the Cloak of Defiance has one very good note. Let me pull this one up here. Cloak of Defiance has one very interesting note, and this is the 1% mana regen per second. So it is very hard to gain resources like mana, because they completely removed mana leech for spells in any form. You know, there used to be a Wrath Watcher's Eye that said percent of damage leeches mana. This is gone. It is also very hard to gain base percent regen. You can use Clarity, but I'm gonna show you in a second why this is like not like the probably best idea. But you get the idea, right? You have sources of mana, of life reach, life recovery rate, like all kinds of things. Mana recovery rate does exist on a Shaper belt, basically, and on a Clarity Watcher's Eye modifier, but that's pretty much it. There is no regen 25 mana per second, right? There are a very few things to get this. I think one is a craft on the bench. It is like a hybrid life modifier. Like this, for example, you have mana and flat mana per second. So this is the rough part. You can get plenty of mana regeneration rate though. Like here we have like a T1 with 69 or up to 69. Nice number there. So what you're trying to do is stack as many mana regen nodes, but even if you have like 500% increased mana regen, you still need to get like a lot of base regen to convert that. So if I would add, for example, a mastery with like 5 mana per second, then I would still get like, I don't know, like 50 mana per second because of all the modifiers that I have, right? Good. As I said, the goal was to get like a very cool Archmage going, and this is like the first state of the build, right? We're just having like some basic stuff that is for mana stacking. I have some fractured ones, just like essence spammed to gain like some form of like mana regen, maybe some crits to have an easier time proccing my Ellie Overload. I'm missing some jewels, I'm missing like a bunch of things, but this is the way I'm gonna spend my next couple of days, trying to make the best perfect, or at least for me, best Archmage build. We can run a map so you can see the gameplay. But obviously we're gonna play this on a 5 link because, as I said, I cannot really sustain Archmage as of right now. So what elemental ailments is kinda bad, but it is what it is.
Can I not have
Do that.
respite?
Map showcase important, even though it's a pretty scuff build for now, right? When it comes to the defense layers, it is magic find, yeah, almost mind over matter with agnostic, and we're playing this time as a Scion. So I did play this build quite often in the past, usually as a Stonebrand Raider, but I always said when I played the Raiders, like, I think Scion is better just because we can yoink the Hierophant node. That gives us increased maximum mana as well as another 8% damage taken from mana before life. And now you would maybe say like, yo, isn't Hierophant like the better version of this? Technically, yes, but Templars have bad character models, the MTXs look bad, so I'm not playing that, okay? And the benefit of a Scion is also that we can go Pathfinder and try to get like 100% uptime on our flasks, basically. So, as you see, I mean, as I said, it's a 5 link, okay? Don't expect too much over here. But we have this beautiful button, which is Val Arc, that I just got stunned on, which is actually good. So I'm gonna talk about the stun tag that I built in so far. Doing a map showcase on a build that is like completely gutted is like a bit awkward, but it is what it is. We're still gonna do the map showcase because otherwise the comments gonna be full. Yo, wait, you bro, there's no map showcase. What the fuck? What is this? But this is more like a theory craft video, or let's say a video based on what are the plans for the builds and how I think things gonna go work out and maybe not work out, and you know, these kind of like theory crafting videos, right? But as you see, Arc, still one of the coolest skills in the game, especially once you press this magical button, which is Val Arc, so you just gather like all the monsters that you can find. It's also like very good for Legion. And then you press this Val Arc, and then you have like insane chains. And I'm even playing this with an Awakened Chain because it, in one hand, it enhances my clear because more chains is more chains. And Arc, the way Arc works is for each remaining chain that you haven't used, you're gonna get more damage. I think it's like 15%. So chain enhances our clear, but also enhances our single target once we are fully loaded, basically, right? God, these mushroom monsters are actually quite tanky. So my current ones, they don't even have a Crucible passive tree because I didn't really bother too much with it. But as you see, the build is really, really tanky and will become a lot more tanky once we started to min-max a bunch of these items and try to get for a lot of like physical damage taken as element. That's why I'm actually using Lightning Coil and stuff like that. But yeah, I think this build is gonna be great. The path of building numbers look great, but there is a lot of things that are kind of a trap. And with that, I mean, things that look good on PoB doesn't always make sense in-game once you play. For example, when I told you about the mana cost, right? Yeah, I could get up my mana cost on Arc to like 4,000 or 5,000 per cast, but with having like a realistic like 2,000 mana per second, you know, I can cast for like a second or so, and then I'm out of mana, and then I cannot cast anymore, and that also means that I'm dealing 0 damage. So it's also like very important to min-max your mana spent or mana increases on your spell, as well as like getting enough recovery rate, right? So for the items, yeah, this will stay. Crown of the Inward Eye, I think, is still like a very good item for any kind of like mana build. Increased max life mana, an energy shield, as well as transfiguration of soul, body, and mind, which gives us like spell damage based on mana and energy shield and life and stuff like that. And since we do have a lot of mana, it's gonna be quite some damage increase. My wands, as I said, at the moment they're just fractured since I'm working on my current base, and I'm gonna show you in a bit. Then Lightning Coil instead of the Cloak of Defiance, just because of the Crucible tree, with since we get like 1.5% mana regen, which is even better than Cloak of Defiance, and we're gonna dual wield those nodes, so mana problem or mana regen shouldn't be a big problem. So physical damage taken as lightning damage is gonna make a huge difference when it comes to like the tankiness of this character. Then I'm going to take gloves and boots with spell suppression, so I'm going to get spell suppression capped with Mage Bane and some points on the Ranger starting area. As I said, I'm gonna try to craft a better belt, like a Stygian Vice with this mana recovery rate, and then like all kinds of like flask modifiers, flask charges gained, reduced flask charges used, increased flask effect, flask duration, and so on. Rings, most likely gonna be one with like Ellie weakness and one with conductivity, so we're gonna get this double curse with then using Whispers of Doom anointment, and that should be it. Good. We're gonna go full out on Wrath on this build, right? I did make a POB with the actual Cold Arc. This was like the original plan for it, right? Going, instead of Wrath, going Hatred. Instead of like lightning damage, we're gonna go with Call of the Brotherhoods and convert lightning into cold damage, so we actually have a Cold Arc build, right? But this doesn't really make sense in PUB. Like overall, it's just a lot worse of a character, a lot less damage, because once you go into conversion, you want to use something that benefits your conversion. For example, an Eternity Shroud or something like that. If you just convert your lightning into cold, you're just dealing cold damage instead of lightning damage, but you don't really have any added benefits. You just lose 2 ring slots because of the Call of the Brotherhoods and so on. There is even an alternate quality for Archmage that converts instead of like gives you like 40% of your mana spent as cold damage instead of lightning damage, right? So you need to like play around that, but I made a POB and it is much worse than the version that I'm currently playing, which is the classical mana stacking Archmage lightning damage based, and we use these the Crucible tree to just get like an added 24% extra damage out of it. There might be a thing where you maybe play with Trinity support, but that means that your hits have to like hit cold damage higher than lightning to activate that. And at the moment I'm having like I don't know, like a 20,000 or so lightning damage, so I don't know how much damage this will do. If there is a way that I can get cold damage higher than lightning, sometimes, not always, I could play Trinity support, and this would be like a very insane support gem, but I don't think it's gonna be the case. But we're gonna test it once we start investing into the build, once we start crafting the items. We're gonna see where the journey will go, basically. But yeah, so I decided to go with Wrath, and we're gonna empower Wrath the best way possible. So we have here an Anomalous Wrath, which has like increased effect of aura, so more damage basically. With Divergent Eternal Blessing. What this blessing does is it activates your aura, but it doesn't spend mana, but therefore you cannot have any auras other than Wrath, basically. Or let me check. Your non-blessing, which reserves mana, your non-blessing skills, which reserve mana, are disabled while you have an aura from supported skills on you. Kind of, okay? It's not like really that, but let me think about. So Sublime Vision, wait a second. Sublime Vision actually reduces blah blah blah. Where's my Sublime Vision? Hello, Sublime Vision? Don't tell me I forgot to put in Sublime Vision now. Unnatural Instinct, Storm Shroud, Watcher's Eye, Stun Tag. Wait, am I not playing Sublime Vision right now? Yo. Okay, doesn't matter, need to fix that. So, Sublime Vision would be the, I think it's like an Uber Shaper drop that increases the effect of your Wrath, can also sap enemies afterwards, but you cannot have any other aura skills than that, right? So the goal is to get the highest Wrath possible. Mana reservation doesn't matter because of the Eternal Blessing. It is free and it doesn't reserve any mana because we don't really want to reserve any mana. But it also means that we can use modifiers like Wrath increased aura effect and increased reservation, which doesn't hurt us in the build at the slightest because mana reservation doesn't really matter. We can also put in an Empower, as I said, a Sublime Vision. We're just going to try to get the craziest, best Wrath that we can get, and then we use a Watcher's Eye with like Wrath modifiers, increased lightning damage, lightning pen, and those kind of things. Since we're playing Agnostic, we cannot really reserve life. Unless you have like the new mastery that says you count as full life while at next 90% maximum life per second. So basically, how do you explain this the easiest way? If you have Agnostic, I will just unspec this node so you can actually see what happens. So running Clarity on an Agnostic build is not really the way, because what usually happens if you don't have this mastery, as soon as you reserve any kind of life, you're draining your mana. Why is that? Because agnostic. Agnostic says while you're not on full life, we recover up to 20% of our mana per second to recover that much life. Okay, that means on a mana pool of like 8,000 times 0.2 for 20%, so we recover 1,600 life per second as long as we're not full life. When we reserve anything on life, we are not on full life because, hey, we reserve a part, so it's not full life, right? So that means that agnostic will permanently try to recover the missing life that cannot be recovered because it's reserved. And there is actually a mastery now that says you count as full life at 90% of maximum life or above, right? What that means, if my clarity that I have here on arrogance is not reserving more than 10% of our life, we basically can get this node and all of a sudden my mana starts to regen because we agnostic stops at 90% now. So if I deactivate my clarity, you're gonna see how slowly that goes up compared to like something that like the recover thing would do, because it would be 1700, but as you see, that's not 1700 life per second. So with this node, you're actually able to get some lower level clarity with arrogance without screwing up your agnostic. So that is actually very interesting as well. But I think once we have the wand fully finished, I don't think that we need this anymore, and then I'm gonna run a Supreme Vision that disables all of our other aura effects, but therefore we can zap enemies as well as having increased Wrath Aura effect. What is my goal basically, to get as much Wrath damage as possible. Good, another thing, let's talk about the wand real quick. What is my goal? So I have here my 4 modded wand that currently has increased spell damage and increased maximum mana. Regen, this is the good regen, and the goal is I want to get like this 5 tree going and then split the item and then dual wield these wands, okay? So I don't have to make the tree twice. Then we have increased chaining range, which is kind of interesting for Arc, with increased aura effect, and here would be the what is it? Or is it the Arc node basically for the extra damage, right? So I'm currently like imprinting my 4 mod wand and then try to get the Arc as my 5th spot without losing any of the other things, and then once I have this done, splitting that, and that should be quite interesting because we have then 3%, which is like 3 times as good as the Cloak of Defiance, and that should get my regen from like 1,000 per second to like 3,000 to 4,000 per second, and this should be the goal to actually be able to sustain the Archmage cost, right? So as I said, POB wise, it looks good if you have like the maximum amount of increased mana spent for skills, so you get all the added benefit of the damage. But if you stand here spamming your casts and within like 3 seconds you cannot even cast anymore and waiting for mana, this is just an absolute DPS loss, right? But that's why I say POB is one thing, testing builds in-game and see how they feel like is a complete other thing. And once you realize, okay, this doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel good, you're gonna adapt your POB. Then I'm playing currently with the stun tech. And here I'm not really sure if this is worth it, okay? So the stun tech is basically you combine Blood Notch with the Immutable Force and basically force yourself to get stunned every time to get added benefits, okay? So basically a hit has to have a certain amount of damage dealt to our life pool to actually stun us. This could be like very small stuns, or it could be like long stuns if you have like, if you really get a massive big hit. To counter that, we basically get something like the Immutable Force, which gives you like up to 1,000% stun and block recovery. So if you get stunned, you will most likely not even notice it because it's like such a micro stun for like, I don't know, like 10 milliseconds or something. So you don't even feel that, right? But what happens here with the Blood Notch is 60% of the damage taken from stunning hits is recovered as life. So if we play something with Petrified Blood, which doesn't really work in this build because it would soak up way too much mana, and once we put in Supreme Vision, this doesn't work anymore as well. Maybe it works because Petrified Blood is a spell in the end, right? But with something like Progenesis Flask, this will help you sustain all of that kind of things. So the cheap version is the Petrified Blood, the more expensive version is the Progenesis Flask. So what do we get besides getting all that like damage? Usually you would take a cluster for recoup, and this basically makes you almost unkillable as long as the hit that you're getting is not killing you, right? And then I put in some other notes over here with increased stun and block recovery, and this is hits cannot be critical strikes if you have been stunned recently. the way I'm playing this right now is I always get stunned no matter what, because we are having the energy shield mastery that says stun threshold is based on 60% of your energy shield instead of life. Since we are running agnostic, we have 0 energy shield. So even one single damage will actually stun you. And to see that is this Trial of Faith here has regen, life, and ES when you get stunned, right? So if I just go quickly Blood Aqueduct to showcase that, this is like 2 buffs that you get, right? As soon as you get stunned, basically you can go over here, like anything will attack us, and you're gonna see these like 2 icons as soon as they hit me. But yeah, it's a bit rough to get stunned with the... Oh, here it is. These are the 2 icons. I think my Arcane Cloak just blocked the stun here. So every time, I think this has an internal cooldown, but overall, once we get stunned, you see this like life regen and the other one, and the energy shield regen. This comes from this stun here, right? So this is basically, once we hit this like threshold, we're gonna have the stun recently effect, so we are now crit immune, as well as we're getting other and added benefits like from the caster mastery. 25% more spell damage. This is like a low life effect if you've been stunned while casting recently. So almost every stun here would actually stun us. So if I'm actually casting something and I get stunned in the same time, then I should get 25% more cast speed, more damage, spell damage that is. So is this good? There is no buff that I can see how good of an uptime this has. In theory, it's a lot of damage because it's 25% more spell damage, but does it proc often? I cannot, like, this one I can test because I see the buffs in the on the top side. I can see the Blood Notch recovering all that life, but we have to think about it's 2 jewel slots that we have to invest, plus the energy shield mastery, plus recoup to make this like stun tech work, and we are basically recovering so much life. So as long as we're not one hit, we should actually be able to survive that. But in the other hand, I'm running agnostic, which already recovers like 1700 life or 2000 life per second. So I'm just thinking, like, is this stun tech thing worth to do? Because it also takes like up a lot of like skill points. We are crit immune through it, and if it works properly, we do get 25% more spell damage. But we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 skill points plus 2 jewel slots and recoup. Actually, later on, I want to craft recoup on my rings. So I think it might not be worth to do it, but it's like, you know, it's just like trying out different things. I thought it might be a good idea. We're gonna play as it is right now and then see how it feels like. Then we're gonna put away the stun tag and see how the tankiness holds up. And if the tankiness is equal or like minor worse, I'd rather get more damage into it. Good. So we talked about the base core foundation of this build. Pathfinder notes, we use Taste of Hate, Topaz, and Ruby Flask, so we get a lot less elemental damage taken, and then some other stuff, you know. As I said, it's like a theory craft video. Today I want to like finish this one, so making imprints, forge it with the Crucible tree, then get the Arc node over here, split the base, then use the new one basically twice to get like a shit ton of mana regen. That should activate our Archmage support. And then we basically go from there. But I think build's gonna be quite hilarious once we reach a certain point of like tankiness and damage. And yeah, as of right now, you know, sharing the kind of like ideas, and we go from there. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.